welcome everybody to Living Intentionally. My name is Carmen Benton. I'm a mindset and energy coach, and I help women create balance and burn out and stop living in autopilot. And if any of that resonated with you, let's make sure we're getting a complimentary consult so I can help you shift the beliefs and the wounds that are causing you to be in that spiral cycle. And today, I wanted to have a very important conversation with you, which is living with intention and intuition. And for that, I have invited my friend Kelli Femrite, who is also an intuitive coach. And she's an hypnotherapist who empowers moms to step into their version of more. I just love that so much. And that is so that you can manifest your highest soul potential. She does that through intuitive one-on-one coaching, hypnotherapy, and energetic work, helping you dig deep and find you more soulful healing and more being able to enjoy life without having to worry about the negative consequences. She helps you clear out generational stories, which is so important, and stagnant energy so that you can step into and own your personal power guided by your higher self. Oh my God. Welcome, Kelli. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to have this chat with you today.
Yes. So I've known Kelli for a couple of years now. We met in Instagram in like previous lives. Like we both have a very different approach to what coaching was and how we did it. And we were actually just chatting about this earlier that it is probably because we weren't listening to our intuition. And
Mhm.
I am gonna attest that in my professional career, many of you know that I am a retired corporate executive. I did everything by intuition, and I can attribute my success to living by intuition. And
Mhm.
so that's what we're going to talk to you today about. Why is intuition is so important? How can you get it going? What are things that are blocking it? And why, how can you leverage it? So, why don't you start with why intuition is so important, Kelli? What are your thoughts about that?
Yes, I love this topic. I can talk about it all day long, right? So, why is intuition so important? So, intuition is our inner guidance system. This is how I explain it, right? It is our inner guidance system to be able to make aligned decisions in our lives, in our careers, in our businesses, in our personal relationships, anywhere, right? That we need or feeling called to make a decision. Our intuition is our inner guidance system, and we're all born with this. So,
Mhm.
how amazing and powerful is that? That we are all born with this inner guidance system. It's not something that we even have to be taught. We all just automatically do it. When we were a little kid, we followed our intuition from the moment we woke up to the minute we went to bed. We followed our intuition throughout our day, and we didn't let outside factors affect us or influence us, right? But
Right.
at a certain point, we did, as you go through the transition, and I'm kind of seeing it with my daughter a little bit. She's 7, going from that age of sort of like feeling free and, like you can own the world, to kind of having that little sense of self-doubt creep in because you have more outside influences on your life. You might have schools, teachers, or maybe well-meaning relatives or friends or other people kind of asserting these opinions and kind of telling you that maybe your intuition isn't right, or maybe you shouldn't do that, maybe you should do it this way. So I always like to say, like, we're born with it, but society kind of programs us to not follow it.
That is absolutely true. And I have to say, I don't remember exactly when did I lost my intuition and when did I pick it back, but I I have a very, I mean, I think unique story when it comes to intuition and why I'm like listen to it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 9/11. I mean, I can literally say that I am alive today because I listened to my intuition. I had two amazing job offers after grad school, one in New York and one in California. And it just didn't make any sense to go to California, but I just couldn't stomach it to go to New York, right? Like we talk about that gut feeling.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go to California. And a few weeks later, 9/11 happened, and I would totally have been in the tower. So after that, you bet like when I get that feeling, and 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 I don't know what your thoughts are about this, but it's not really your God, but you feel it there because it's just, it's in the power center. It's like I feel that it's a combination between your heart and your power center. There is like something that happens there that kind of
Yeah.
talks to you.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really, really powerful, like very obvious example of intuition, right? So a lot of people will sort of look to those big examples, but then they feel like on a day-to-day basis, they're kind of questioning, like, is this really my intuition? Or I get a lot, is this my intuition? Is this my anxiety? I get that question a lot, right? So what I say to that is intuition is always going to feel like it could be alerting you of danger, but it's always going to make you feel like you're you're expanding. So anxiety is going to make you feel like you're constricting in on yourself. So with the anxiety, you're going to get that racing heart, but the racing heart is going to come with that panicky feeling. You might even get panic attacks or things like that. Intuition is going to be a more of a calm knowing. Like,
Yes.
I don't know if it was for you in that example from 9/11, that's a scary thing, but was it just a calm knowing that something was going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, like I make the decision to go to California instead of New York about 2 3 months before it happened, but it was just like I just knew that I
Yeah.
needed to be in this different place. But I have a more mundane example. So as I was traveling 3 days ago, 2 days ago, I go to the airport and it's snowing cats and dogs in Anchorage. So I'm like, I am not parking outside. I'm parking like in the short term parking, even though it's gonna be longer than short term. And I pull into the garage, and it says no, like the garage is full. And I'm like, no freaking way I'm gonna park outside. So I took the ticket anyways, and I just said, I just need one parking spot. One. So I enter into the garage and I stop there. And I do this when I'm gonna look for parkings in like everywhere. I stop there, I take a deep breath, and I'm like, okay, left or right? And I felt to go right. So I went right, and right there, there was one empty parking spot waiting for me. That's all I
Yeah.
needed. And that is your intuition. There
Oh
is,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
there is your higher self is guiding you every step of the way. But
Definitely.
our ego tends to get in the way, and that's why you don't hear it, because you have all these beliefs and all these wounds and all this programming that has happened with society,
Yes.
and the way we were brought up and all that just kind of like interferes with the signal, the divine signal from your higher self.
It does. Yes. There's so much programming and so much noise and so much that interferes with that inner knowing or that inner connection and that ability to actually listen to it. Because I find I'm talking to a lot of women who they'll say something like, I sense this, I think it's my intuition, but they're still questioning it. And the questioning it part, I think, comes from the ego, really.
Hmm.
Because the question, it's like, well, that can't be true. Like, really, I'm supposed to do that? Or that's when the programming and the ego comes in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I like to say anytime you hear the I should, that should word is you have a rule that shouldn't be there, right? Or a rule that you have installed to protect a belief. Um, But one, it's like people is like, okay, so how do you use intuition, as a gift? Like, and I have to say, because we have people here from Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, everywhere. So I want to make sure everyone understand this is so critical for everybody.
Yeah.
If we go to the, traditional working environment, we even have Steve Jobs that said in an interview that he credits all his success to intuition. It's like you have to believe in something, might as well believe in fate.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you, like, one of my examples. I have this track record of always hiring the best performer employees in my company. Everybody that I hired, I had like a clean record. Everybody that I hired was a stellar performance. And people used to ask me, like, how? Well,
Yeah.
here's my trick. I never read a resume. I mean, HR did it. I mean, I trust that HR did the filtering. At least they
Yeah.
are some sort qualified. But when they got to me, I was all about reading their energy and letting my intuition tell me if
Love
this
that.
is going to be a good fit for the job, for the culture, for my team, etc.
Yeah,
And so
I love
that's how
that.
you use it, like, every day. What other examples do you have, Kelly? Like, people can say, like, yeah, this is something I can use every day.
So I absolutely love that. And I have to say, when I was back in my corporate job, if I knew what I know now, things would have gone way differently, right? Because once I sort of started going down this path is when I started learning all these things, and I was already out of that job by this point. But I'm just thinking back to how much this could help people in a day-to-day situation. Even one example that's coming to my mind is job searching, right? If you're looking for a new opportunity, and sometimes that could be really, really overwhelming. And I know I've been in that scenario where I just felt so overwhelmed that I'm just like, I'm just going to give up. Like, I'll just stay where I'm at. This is too hard. Like, I don't, I'm just rejections and going through this process of submitting resumes and writing cover letters and like all of these things. But you looking back and like applying my knowledge that I know now to back then, you can actually tap in to your higher self and to your intuition to only apply to those jobs you have a good feeling about.
Yes.
So you can eliminate the rest where you really sit and tune into that job post. Maybe you're reading the job posting or you're on the company website and you're just really like just allowing yourself to tune into it and see what you get. Is it a yes or is it a no? Do you have a good feeling about this or do you have a bad feeling about this? And just using those tools in those scenarios is going to eliminate so much frustration and overwhelm.
Absolutely. Another way that I say that you can use your intuition is solving problems, right? Because the problem and the solution are not at the same vibrational level, right? So let's get a little woo here.
I love getting woo.
Yes, but they are not. And so when you are trying to solve a problem, if you keep pounding on the fact that you have this situation that you have to find a solution for, it's going to be very unlikely you're going to find the most elevated solution if you find any. But when you tap into your intuition, which is more elevated vibration, then you can see clearly what avenues to take.
Definitely. Yeah. And since you got a little bit woo, just adding beyond that, like adding to that, once you start tapping into your higher self and your intuition every day, you can also, like, we all have spirit guide teams that want to help us. And so you can tap into that energy. Anybody can do it. You don't need to be a trained psychic, a trained intuitive, anything like that. Everybody can tap into these higher vibrational frequencies and energy. And you'd be amazed at once you start tapping into those, what solutions you can come up with for your life, for your issues that you're having, or for, I've even come up with names for like coaching programs or names for memberships or, podcast episode titles, anything you can imagine. Like the it's limitless, really. It's just limitless.
Yes. Well, I mean, the name of this podcast, right? The podcast was nameless for I think 6 episodes because I was trying to find the perfect name, and again, stuck in the vibration of the problem, and
Yeah.
then I surrender to it, and literally in a meditation, I just heard the name, and I
Yes.
was like, oh, I love it because everything I teach really encompasses in living with intention, right? Living
I
intentionally.
love that.
Um, so, so we were talking earlier about these limiting beliefs that clutter, or like create this white noise around the
Hmm.
intuition. And I know you have specific ways where you help um, moms, women to, unblock that. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, definitely. So I like to think of my sort of like what I offer is not just like one specific thing, because when I go into a session with someone, it is very intuitively guided.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going into that session very much open to what my intuition is saying, but what their intuition is saying, what I'm hearing in regards to, any messages coming in from higher self, from spirit guides, from all of these different facets that I'm opening myself to energetically. So in a typical session, like for example, I have an energetic alignment session that I have been having recently. And this session, it is sort of like a combination of us getting on the call, but not really. So you know how like in traditional coaching, you're just kind of talking.
Mm-hmm.
You're just kind of sort of like, here's my problem, what's my solution, sort of thing. So I found for me that method didn't really work most of the time. So instead, my sessions are, let's start with you tell me a little bit about what's going on. Where do you feel, feel into these areas of where you feel you're out of flow, or maybe you're out of energetic alignment. And then we're going to bring in messages and we're just going to kind of intuitively guide this. I use oracle cards in the session sometimes if that's what I'm called to do. So like, for example, today, I still have the card out, but we were tapping into sort of the energy around why she was feeling stuck and what she was feeling stuck around, because she was trying to sort of move into a new area of business, but something was keeping her stuck in like the old area. And we just wanted to like really dig into what that was. And she got the card around synergy and realization. So what happened was, it's really hard to explain like if you're not actually on the call, but she almost became unblocked in a sense of why she was even doing the business in the first place, what her purpose was, what her vision was, and what her drive was for doing it. And we uncovered that it wasn't money, because most of us are taught that our number one ambition should be how much money we can make in our businesses, or how big our salary could be, right? But she discovered, and that came out, that her ambition wasn't money. So how could we help her reframe this to step into that and focus on around the energy around her big vision and her her goals being more impact driven, like more impact driven rather than money driven. So there's just an example. It's very much, like I said, intuitively guided. I don't have a format for it. We just kind of go in, we dig in, and like see what we can come up with.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I think and this is what, we came together, with the power of the universe, right? We do a lot of similar things. And yeah, like my sessions are totally guided. Sometimes it's like, okay, we need to do energy first. And that opens up a lot of conversations. Sometimes we do coaching first, and then in the middle,
Yes.
it's like, no, 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 let's remove that block. Um, but I find that people said, like, I'm just not that special. I don't have my intuition. And this is the thing. It's like a muscle. You
Yes.
have to work it, and you have to trust it. And this is like, I have a deal with my intuition. Like, if I ask, because sometimes I get unasked request, like suggestion. But if I ask a question and I get an answer, I will follow it,
Yes.
even if it doesn't make sense. Like the other day, again in Anchorage, it's snowing a lot, and there was so much snow. My son was at his dad, and he was calling me to pick him up, my 7-year-old son. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go get you. I'm gonna go get you. And the driveway hasn't been plowed, and I'm like going outside and measuring. I mean, there were like 2.5 feet of snow in the driveway, and I'm measuring that, and I'm measuring the clearing of my car, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I can make it. I think I can make it. So sometimes, and this is something that you can use if you don't necessarily trust yourself when you are starting, because you might be biased with what you want to do. You can
Yeah.
use a pendulum, and you can use a card to get
Yes.
the answers. So I pull up my pendulum and I ask, and I got my yes. So I'm going, and my husband is like, "You're gonna get stuck." I'm like, "Nope, I'm good. I was told to go, so I'm going." And I'm gonna tell you, it was a very sketchy drive, but I didn't get stuck, and I made it safely. So yeah,
Nice.
that's how I use intuition. Like,
Yeah, for sure. And I feel sometimes like I'm glad you mentioned that, like the cards and the pendulum and those tools, um, they're sort of like a confirmation for us, right? So they're sort of like we already have that intuitive feeling, but we're asking for that confirmation.
yeah,
And so it's interesting, such as, for example, when I decided to pivot my business, when I first started out online, I was not a coach. I was not in this sort of niche at all. I did work with women, but I was more of a service provider. I had my hands in different like VA services. I would do creative copywriting for different female entrepreneurs and things like that. So that's a whole other journey. I decided, in between then and now, like I saw what these female purpose driven entrepreneurs were creating. And I went to myself, that's what I like. I really want to create something of my own. And that's my big vision. So that's how I ended up shifting over. But in what was I just trying to say?
the pendulum, the confirmation.
Yes, the confirmations. So when I was making that decision, I knew, like, I felt into it so many times, and I had been journaling about it. I had a whole vision for where I wanted to go, but I would use those tools as confirmation because it kind of gives you that reassurance when you're first starting in working with your intuition. It gives you that reassurance that you're not crazy, that these messages are actually coming to you, that this might be a scary change, this might be a new direction you didn't know you were going to go in, but it is being confirmed with the tools, with the card readings you're getting, or the pendulum, or there's a whole bunch of other tools out there. So I think it's just kind of like as an intro, like if you are newer at working with your intuition and really wanting to focus on it, those tools are so great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I said, like, especially when it's for yourself, like for my clients, because I have no bias on the answer, it's so clear. The yes and no, or the what to do is so clear.
Yeah.
But I'm human. I'm only human, right? So sometimes I really may want something, and when I'm asking, the answer I'm getting is not really what I want, and that's when it's like, okay, well, let me have a non-biased answer to it.
Yes.
And so a lot of people also ask, like, well, how do I know, if I'm getting my intuition? So I came up with a couple of things here, and maybe you can help me add to it. But the things that I would say is, if you are an empath, right? If you can pick up on emotions, that's definitely a sign that you have this connection already awakened, because everyone has the connection. It's just being kind of like,
Yeah.
tuned down. If you're a good judge of character, right? Like that's kind of what I was doing in corporate America when I was hiring people, right? Like I can judge someone's character
Yeah.
like this, right? Like I tell my kids, my teenager kids, like, now good friend, no good friend, and I just can, like, in a second form
I
an
can
opinion
do
on
that too. Yeah.
um, then the other one is, vivid dreams. Your intuition might talk to you in your dreams, because maybe
Definitely.
when you are awake, your subconscious mind is too busy and you are rejecting it. So don't discard your dreams. That might be your intuition talking to you.
Definitely.
And
Mhm.
definitely, your inner voice. And when I say inner voice, people is like, oh, but I don't hear things. It doesn't have to, like, sometimes you can hear things, sometimes you
Yeah.
can see, like, have a flash of an image. Sometimes it's just, you just know.
You
You
just
just know.
know.
Yeah. And it's so funny because my husband has learned, when I come up with things that makes no sense whatsoever, he's like, yeah. Because it's happened before, like, even like with his old job, there was this situation happening, and I'm like, oh, you should be careful with this person.
Yeah.
And he's like, what, you're crazy. I'm like, you saying. And then a couple months later, he's like, how do you know? I'm like, I just knew. You just
Definitely. Oh yeah, it's that sense of knowing. You just know something. You can't explain why, but you just know. And I think so. I have a strong feeling that the ones of us that have gotten to the paths that we're on right now, like working in these areas, I have a strong sense and feeling that our ancestors also had these types of gifts and knowings and deep connections with their intuition, whether they were suppressed or not. I feel I strongly feel that it does get, go down through generations. And I've had so my mom is not, she's in a regular job. She does not do anything with, I've gotten her more interested in some of this stuff in the recent years, but she's always told me stories about having sort of like dreams that have come true partly, or she's had these kind of feelings and nudges and intuitions about situations or scenarios, and then they happened. So I'm like, Mom, you definitely have, like, you have some of the clair gifts. And I was walking her through all of the clairaudience, clairsentience, she's like, she checked off every category.
Yes. Yes. Same with my mom, actually. It took me way too long because I was stubborn and independent to, like, listen when she said, oh no, I didn't like that boyfriend, right? Like, always ended up, I should have listened earlier. But also dreams, like, the craziest thing happened. I had cousin that she actually has, she had cancer. She's fine now, but nobody knew about it, just few of us. And I knew that my mom didn't know.
Mhm.
And so she called me one day. It's like, oh, have you talked to your cousin? And I'm like, yeah. And so she's trying to, like, get me to tell her something. And at that point, I just kind of got the know that she knows. So I'm like, she's asking me, like, what do you know? I'm like, no, what do you know? And so we started with that back and forth. And she told me everything. Like, and I'm like, who told you? And she's like, oh,
Yeah.
you said a dream about it. Like, yes, such a you. Like, but no, it definitely comes in generations. And I'm going to say, because there might be people listening, it's like, oh my god, these women are crazy talking about these things. There's more people awakening every day.
Yeah.
Katie, how are you? There's more people awakening every day than not, and it's going to become really mainstream. This doesn't change
Yeah.
that that you might have a real job, that you have a business, or that you have to be doing cars or pendulums or whatever.
Right.
It's just we are elevating our consciousness to where we're supposed to always be, because that is the thing. We were supposed to always be there, but it's programming from society that has interrupted that communication. I guess that's a way to say it.
Definitely. No, I'm totally 100% with you there, Carmen. I feel like we are like in the most recent years, I've seen and I've felt these shifts happening too. And it's just more and more, like you said, more and more people are awakening to just alternative ways of being, living, waking up to your soul potential, I like to call it, right? Waking up to your soul path and potential, because we get programmed to suppress those things. Like thinking back to sort of like, I always tell clients, like, what did you love to do as a child? Are you still doing that today? If not, then why not start doing it, even if it is for a hobby? Like tap into that like joyful, expansive energy, right? And it will translate like into other areas of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually very key. It's like, what did you like to do when you were a child? How did you clear your energy? How did you have fun? How do you find joy? And if you go back to that, it will facilitate the, I guess, reignition of that connection back to
Mm-hmm.
source, right? And
Yeah.
source can be God, can be the unit, whatever you want to call it. There is a greater power full of love that, it's always, looking after us. So you can call it whatever you want to call it.
Right. Yeah. I always tend to say that as well. Sort of like, I don't get involved in the debate over what to call it. It's just, it's something greater, right? And it could just be this greater energy source, this greater, being or energy source, whatever you want to call it. But just tapping into that and feeling the power of it. Once you do, once you do tap into that source and once you feel the power of it, you're not going to want to go back to living the way you were living.
I just got goosebumps everywhere. You said that. That is exactly what it is. And, I'm like, for me, like playing with energy is that's like my see, like how I got excited all of a sudden. Like that's like my happy. That's like it's so amazing. It's nurturing. It it just fixes everything. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It fixes everything. You can do mindset all day long,
Yeah.
and you do need mindset because if you don't address the thoughts, you keep cluttering the pipe. But you need energy to actually clear the pipe.
Oh,
And
yes.
and
Hmm.
so it's this magic combination of having both on an everyday habitual thing that
Hmm.
makes life so much better.
Definitely. And I actually did a few months ago, I did a sort of challenge in my group, sort of going over conscious versus subconscious mindset tools and how you can combine both like daily to really supercharge your results. And so a lot of people will start with the conscious mindset tools. So, for example, a conscious mindset tool could be repeating an affirmation to yourself. So you start out with that and you're like, okay, I'm repeating, I'm powerful, I'm feeling this. And then you get stuck because you're not digging deeper below the surface to go into the subconscious mindset tools, which when you combine both, that's when you get like your supercharged power from.
Right. Because I mean, your brain is not dumb, right? It's like, no, you don't believe you're all that awesome. And so then you go in, so you start planting that seed. So when you actually clean the root of why you don't believe you're that worthy, right? So
Yeah,
you start planting the record there, but then go clean the cause of your disbelief in yourself. And that's when magic happens.
definitely. Yeah.
And,
So,
and
mhm.
this actually, by the way, again, I keep addressing the people who might think that we are not, this doesn't apply to them. But it's like why some people can so quickly grow their careers, so quickly make so much money, is because they have addressed their thoughts, their beliefs, their core wounds, and they have a way to sustain that clean energy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going to boardrooms and it's like, oh my God, so feels so heavy. And at the beginning, not knowing how to shield myself, because
Yes.
I'm very, very empathetic. Like I can feel everything, right?
Oh yeah.
I will go home and I will be like drained. So then that translated into, issues with my relationships or with my kids, because I didn't know how to protect my energy, right? So then
Yep.
it's like simple tools or how to allow only good energy to come to you while
Hmm.
still be able to function in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've been actually teaching, which it surprises me that most people don't know this, but I've been teaching this to my clients lately, where it's just a bubble of protection. And you just put the bubble around yourself before you're going to go like into an event, before you're going to even get on a live call, before you're going to deal with somebody else's energy and have an energetic exchange. And you're literally just, it's visioning, you're just envisioning like a protective bubble around yourself, and no one else's energy can penetrate that bubble. And you
Yes.
keep it up the entire time you're at that event or you're around other people, and it's amazing the difference that you feel as an empath.
Right. And again, you were saying something about, generational and going down the line, these gifts. And again, everyone has the gifts. So if you have little kids, before the age of, I don't know, 8, 9, they probably still have their gifts active. And I
Yep.
remember my couple, I don't know, a couple months ago, my son was having nightmares. It was beginning to be aware of the dark in the room and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I went, it's like, well, let's just shield yourself. So I taught him how to shield himself. And then
Nice.
we say, only energies, only beings of light and love can go through my shield. Because, if there's angels or there's something good, you don't want to block that.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it's like, no more nightmares. And he loves it. He loves to shield himself.
I absolutely love that. I love that so much. Yeah, there all of these tools. There's just so many ways that we can use them, like not only in our like careers or businesses, but like your example, just in your family life. Like look at the difference that made for him.
Hmm.
Like so when we start thinking about these things and then sort of other not to get too deep into it, but other methods that people try to do interventions for kids or, medications or things like that. It's like, why not try this first?
Hmm.
Like, we have all this power within us. Let's
Yes.
tap into that first and see where we can get with that. And then
Yes.
if we really need some interventions, then let's do that. But
Yes. And I can go for days. In fact, I had another story about intuition that I came up with talking about my son, but it's like, no, I can go for days talking
I
about,
know.
uh, when something goes right, when you had that feeling and something goes right, it wasn't luck. You just listen to your intuition and that's when things work out. So
Definitely.
I guess if I have to end this call with something, is that you have it, trust it, use it, is there for your benefit, is there to get you closer to your higher self, to get you closer to your soul purpose. And every time you're feeling that discomfort is because you're pushing away from it. So your intuition is just there to guide you towards what you're supposed to be doing. So do it, use it in everything. Even like in a restaurant, what I'm supposed to eat today. Like,
Oh, yeah. I love doing that because I used to be the person who was like, I don't know, like I don't know what I want for dinner. I don't know. And now I lean into my intuition and I
Mhm.
just get an answer like that. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, this is what I want, or no, I don't want that.
Yeah. And in case someone, and let's say we're gonna wrap up, but say, in case someone's saying, what does food have to be? What intuition has to do with food? Well, you might need grounding today. You might need a deeper connection, with source. You might need, to take care of your power center,
Yeah,
and we can do that through foods as well. So let's say that you feel like having some starchy food, but you don't want to do it because it's not on the diet. Well, maybe you need to ground, and that's why your body's asking you for it. So that's where intuition goes with food as well.
that's a really good point. Yeah, there's a whole other like subtopic we can do about like body intuition.
Yes. So anyway, so this has been a lovely conversation, Kelly. Maybe we need to have take two down the road again.
Definitely, yeah.
Talking about it. But so I know I put all your links in the description of the episode, but if someone wants to go connect with you really quickly, what would be the best way to do that?
The best place to connect with me would be in my Facebook group. So it's called Mom Intuitive Healing Circle. And so you can find me over there. I do live events, live card readings once a week. So those are always really fun. It's a community of moms who want to develop their intuition and learn how to use their higher self to guide their life. So if you're interested in that, you can find me over there, and I'd love to have you.
How beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you so much for having me on, Carmen.
Bye-bye.